violations.
Okay, everybody, we're gonna start, so we can, get out of here while it's light out, fat chance. Good evening, everybody. It's 6:31 by that clock, and we'll go ahead and start the meeting if, Colleen would like to take the roll.
Tyler Carmichael.
Here.
Rob Morrow.
Here.
Rich McNeil.
Present.
Gail Ober.
Here.
Louis Joseph.
Here.
Michael Delavecchia.
Here.
Stacy Susie.
Here.
Scott McWilliam.
Here.
Kelly Sinclair.
Here.
Remember to look at that, that's the
What's that?
shareable.
He's supposed to be. So right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's the proper number. 9 members, right? I'm looking at you. It's supposed to be 9, right?
Yes. Gail's a.
She's an alternate, Scott's an alternate. We have 9 voting members present right now. That's what we need.
5 voting members shall constitute quorum.
You need 4.
Now, I'm not talking about for quorum, I'm talking about
Full board.
the full board here. So
Okay,
that,
a full
which
board.
alternate is gonna be voting or not voting? But right now, both alternates can vote. Am I correct? Right. And if Bruce shows up, then, I think you didn't vote last time.
I did
Neither
not
one of
vote.
you did.
I didn't either.
No,
But
neither
we'll-
one of us voted.
Flip a coin or whatever, so we'll see if Bruce shows up. So also in attendance tonight, we have Kalina, and Kalina, is it office manager? What is your title? Okay, we'll say office manager tonight. And Kathy, the planning director, congratulations.
Thank you.
She's been appointed,
Remove the interim.
officially appointed.
Congratulations.
The condolence cards will start rolling in really soon.
What?
The condolence cards will start rolling in soon. Okay, do I have an agenda here?
We have an extra if you need it.
No, I got it right here.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, this is for tonight, okay. So we'll take a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting, which was 2 weeks ago. No, we're not gonna do that, because they're not done.
Published, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna pass on that, and we're gonna go to presentations.
None.
And we're just gonna go right to the continued public hearings. Okay.
Did you want to change the order of the agenda and take up the discussion of the?
Yes, thank you very much, Kathy. I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda, just change it around a little bit so our public doesn't have to sit through our rules and procedure discussion. Do we have a motion for that?
So made.
There's a second? Okay. All in favor?
Where are you moving it
Okay.
to? The end.
To the end. 6.1. Counselor Cheney is here now, so would one of you like to volunteer not to vote?
He's got more seniority than me, so I'll not vote.
Okay. Thank you, Gail. All right, so we're going to move now to where we left off on 7.1 PL 2019-0092 SP. Amendment 1 PL 2023-0106 CUP Endicott Street East, MBL 187-72-7. This was a proposal to amend the 2019 approval to modify New Access Road amount of solar arrays and relocate interconnect location in the wetland buffer. We discussed this last 2 weeks ago, and there was a discussion about the grade, the steepness of the grade, if that was going to meet the city code, and it was also, well, that was pretty much the big thing, if I recall. And I understand we have some new information.
Yeah, so I'm Adam Sandall, CMA Engineers, representing the applicant, NESG, Laconia One Solar. I'm going to go through no need to go through the,
Not the whole thing, but you
Yeah.
could certainly tell us what has transpired since our last meeting?
Yeah, so since the last meeting, there was some question on the fire department's review of our application as it related to the slope of the access road. And so the city had reached out to them to confirm that they did in fact review the slope of the access road. And we have a new letter from them dated September 6th that indicates that they do not take exception.
Okay, and are we calling that a road or a driveway?
Driveway.
Calling it a driveway, you know, part of the problem, as I said in my memo, is that the engineer, the applicant's development team alternately referred to it as a driveway and a road. Finally came to an agreement that it's gonna be a driveway. The fire department has looked at it, Public Works has also looked at it. The city code, if it were a street, the city code would allow the Public Works Director to waive that 10% maximum, so it wouldn't have to go to city council, but because it's a driveway, we don't have to deal with that issue. There is a waiver request, because through this process, we found that since it's now a driveway, section 6.2B10 of the subdivision regulations, I understand this is site plan, but the site plan regulations for road and driveway standards refer you back to the subdivision regulations. So they need a waiver from section 6.2B10 of the subdivision regulations to allow the driveway slope within 50 feet of a roadway intersection to exceed that 8% grade. The deputy fire chief has submitted a memo. That would be in compliance with all of the NFPA requirements, so they don't have an issue with the waiver request.
Anything else, sir, you'd like to? Okay, thank you. Do we need more public input on this?
Yes, it's still a public hearing.
Okay, so we'll open up the public hearing on this at 6:38. Is there anybody from the public, abutters, spectators, anybody who'd like to comment on this matter?
Moving right along.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing at 6:39 and move on now to staff. If you have anything else you'd like to add, Kathy?
No, that pretty much addresses everything. I'm just sending a text to Wes.
Yeah, no, I
Let him know
understand.
that this is moving along quickly. I pretty much addressed everything in my very brief update to the memo. So we resolved the driveway versus road issue. The fire department has determined that the 14% grade on the driveway is acceptable given the NFPA requirements, particularly since there are no residences on the property. It's simply a non-residential use. And the fire department also indicated that the slope at which the driveway intersects the road is not an issue for them either. So that pretty much puts all of the issues that were outstanding pretty much are now resolved.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Councilor Cheney, I know you had a couple of questions, or I think actually there was some questions about the entrance with the poles, but that's all settled?
Yep.
That's all good. Colleen, are we being broadcast on YouTube? Okay, because I saw the screen was dark, so I wasn't sure. Then turn it on. Because it's not a real meeting, right?
It is, but you're not really doing much, so.
Okay. Okay, so no questions. So I'll enter a motion for that waiver that Kathy talked about.
I'll make a motion to approve the waiver for the grade of the driveway.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I'm looking at you, Mike, no?
No discussion.
All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Across the board in favor, so thank you. So now we'll move on to the
The
acceptance
application
of the
itself.
application, yep. Any discussion on that?
I
Okay,
just have a question. on
okay,
the application.
please, go ahead, Stacy.
Did Lakes Region Planning Commission get in touch with you?
They did not know.
I went and gave their name and number.
Kirk and I are actually gonna set up a meeting with Jeff to meet with him to discuss this project and the state school.
Okay. He said he just wanted to find out if you guys had applied for any grants.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Have you?
For this project, I'm not aware of any grants.
Okay. I think it's eligible. That's why they're trying to get together with you.
You okay? Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay.
You can reach out to me and I can give you the contact
Bruce?
information
What?
for it.
Okay, thank you.
I got it.
Is it got cream in it?
I don't know. I don't care.
Important business here. Okay, so, that's it for questions?
Thank you.
Wait just a moment. A question that probably ought to be asked is, what about washouts on Endicott Street, and who's responsible for those? From them.
Are you concerned about washouts because of the driveway, the slope of the driveway?
Of the driveway, but also
The construction of the power line?
construction. Simple question, who's responsible for
Well,
it?
they would have some erosion control and stormwater management systems in place during the construction, correct?
You mean Sterling Drive, right? There's no access road on Endicott.
No, but there's going to be access when you start to put the poles in. Yes?
So the poles, there's 5 poles that are right along, they're 50 feet offset from Endicott Street.
Yep.
So there's really no, I mean, there's the kind of the paved area there where the guardrail is, but there's really no, you can't go past where the city removed that culvert, which is pretty much like right there. So there's really no access into the site off of Endicott Street.
And how about the other street that you mentioned?
Sterling Drive? Yeah, so that's where we're proposing to do the new access road. That's where the primary access is gonna be off of Sterling Drive.
Right. So are you responsible if there's a washout
To clean up the washout
to repair whatever damage might be done?
to Sterling Drive?
Yep.
I mean, I would assume so.
That would be, you can make that a condition of approval.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking, please. That they be responsible for any washouts that might occur.
Yeah, you can make that a condition of approval, in addition to the conditions that were in your memo.
Okay, thank you.
Just for a point, wouldn't any property owner be responsible for washouts onto a city street or a state highway if it came off their property? I'm just asking.
You're asking the wrong person, I don't,
Okay. Well, we'll
I'm
be,
just worried about there because it's steep
sure.
and the
Valid
potential
point.
exists.
Okay, do we need a motion on that? To make that part of the acceptance, or is that just,
No, when you go to approve it, it'll be subject to the conditions contained
Okay.
in the memo and Mr. Cheney's concerns about
all right,
repairs resulting from any, road repairs resulting from any construction activities on the site.
okay.
Perfect.
Are there any other comments concerning additions or anything? So I'll entertain a motion with, for this acceptance with,
But we already had a motion and
well, we gotta add,
No, we gotta have the,
yeah, that was on the amendment.
so we'll have to make them, we'll have, right, we have to make.
Well,
a
the
motion.
driveway
Right.
was correct.
The waiver, yes,
Right.
but not the application yet.
Right, we have to do the application
We
now.
accepted it already, now we have to
Yeah.
approve, correct?
Right.
Correct.
So it's approval.
We have to make sure that whoever
There's a
says,
condition, yes?
Right. so,
I'll make a motion to approve the application with the conditions outlined by the staff in the staff report. Is that acceptable?
In addition,
as well as-
And Counselor
And
Cheney's.
Counselor Cheney's amendment,
Condition.
condition.
Is there a second? Mike seconded it, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, no opposed? Okay, you're all set.
Awesome, thank you. Have a good evening.
What's that, Cleaner?
Finding,
Findings of
Oh,
fact.
somebody's got to,
sorry.
that's all right, it's got to be done.
Bringing green energy to the area,
Natural.
which is good.
Renewable.
Renewable, great.
Mhm.
I don't have one.
I think mine's black.
I don't have one.
I think you're good.
All right.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Now they can get going on that. Okay, so next up is 7.2, PL 2021-008 SU, Amendment 224-228, Endicott Street East, proposal to amend the previous approval to remove the condition regarding sewer agreement with a budding property. Now, I can see the applicants here. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is David Plunkett from Lowell, Massachusetts, representing Ram Clarendon LLC. In the audience with me today are both Roland Mainville and Tracy Mainville, principals of the LLC. Happy to say that the agreement with the adjoining Sundown condominium, we're, I would say, 99% of the way there. We can say that we have an agreement in principle. There's a couple of tweaks that we have to address, but I don't think that there is any issue that we will not have an agreement with the adjoining Sundown. I know Attorney Corvo is here tonight, and, you know, we have been in communication in these intervening 2 weeks, and, you know, we have pretty much a outline that's acceptable to us. We'll need to submit for approval by the city, but I think based upon the initial lead into this draft that we have here tonight, starting with a Zoom meeting with the prior planning director, you know, I'm very confident that we're going to, it's something that should pass muster with the city. So relative to the specific action then for the removal of that item, that will not be necessary because of our ability to have reached agreement.
I can't speak for everybody on the board, but boy, that is sweet music to me. I'm very happy to hear that, and I'm sure everybody else is
The,
glad of that, so.
So that means you're withdrawing your request to amend the conditions of approval?
correct, in that we have agreement with the Sundown Group, and as I say, it's just some minor tweaking to go forth. We will be submitting it. We do still have the same situation that we spoke about the last time, though, that we have this pending sale with the potential buyer living in the motel, and, you know, our hopes that we could have the framework for resolution to get the occupancy permit. The third-party engineer has been to the site. They have been in contact with the city. We're dealing with our engineer just carrying out the documentation that's necessary to finalize and submit to the city. So, you know, from that perspective, it's our hope that we could have some framework of understanding of getting the occupancy permit. There's also still another, two issues. There is a bond in place that the city is holding, and there's also a 6-unit that, you know, we haven't requested, you know, the issuance of the occupancy permit. But at this point in time, we now have this agreement pretty much in place that we're gonna be submitting to the city. We have the Dubois, I think Dubois and King? Du Bois and King, who has been to the site. All the work is done according to their direction. Our engineer is now working to compile and finalize the documentation necessary for it. And, you know, what we're hoping for is to get the occupancy for this fifth agreement, fifth unit, just so we could get the person out of the motel and move forward with the, you know, that we've, there's been significant, you know, gains or progress that have been made, and we've done everything, we'll continue to do everything that the city is asking for, and we're just trying to get this moving.
Well, it sounds like you're pretty close.
Yeah.
Any commentary?
Yeah, the only issue, again, some of these outstanding issues, again, are conditions of approval. The as-built plan, as an example, within 30 days prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit, the applicant shall file an as-built plan. Then we have the final third-party inspection, and obviously, the condominium documents haven't been completed yet.
Oh, they've been submitted to the, there have been meetings with, I'm sorry for the names.
With,
Wes,
right,
Anderson.
Right.
And he has requested certain language, and
Right,
that
I
language has been
understand that.
inserted and submitted to him at his direction. And just to point out that, you know, under the city bylaws or ordinances, that there does provide, you know, for, you know, a issuance with some type of, you know, as-built plans is prior to the submission, that they may accept the have security
Which is
to
I was
assure
just
that it's
gonna-
going to be done. And in this case here, we've got security in the sense that there is money in the security bond, and we still have a 6-unit that we haven't requested an occupancy permit on yet.
Could the city not issue them a temporary CO?
that's not gonna be enough for them to close. I don't think a mortgage company is gonna accept that in order to close on the unit. I wouldn't have an issue with the security that they've posted is site security. That's for a specific purpose. If they want to post additional security in the form of cash or a letter of credit that would cover the cost of an as-built plan, and they can get an estimate from their engineer and submit that to the city. And if they, we still haven't received the final bill from Du Bois and King. I could reach out to them and get an estimate of that final bill amount, including their final inspection. And if they want to post, as I said, a letter of credit drawn on a New Hampshire bank or cash as security, that will be refunded to them once the as-built plans are received and once the final inspection is completed by Du Bois and King and we have that final invoice, I would be comfortable with the issuance of a CO.
So,
So, Rob?
It's usually.
no, so we don't actually need any action from us then for that.
Oh, yeah, we do. We
We would
do.
have to set some conditions and remove others, or?
Well, the conditions are in the notice of action. And the board would have to make a motion to accept an alternative such as the one I just suggested instead of what's required in the NOA.
Can I just say couple of things for a minute?
Yeah,
This is
go
a
ahead.
Tracy Main, too.
So I deal with all the emails and the going backs and the forths with all that. So just to backtrack a little bit, we started this back in July. And I don't know if you want to know the whole history of starting back in July, but we started back in July when new people were coming on and everything that was happening. We submitted an as-built plan, as per our civil engineer have done with the city of Laconia for, he's been telling us years and years and years. And then it took 2.5 weeks for them to say that wasn't the as-built that we needed. And then it went back and forth again between Wes's office and the planning office. And the planning office finally said through our attorney that, yes, we just have to take this one thing off this plan and we can use this plan as part of your condo docs. We fixed what needed to be fixed, paid for another Mylar, got it done. 2 days later, Wes says it's not good. So it's like one thing happens and somebody's not talking to somebody else. And then in July again, beginning of August, after our July meeting here, someone said there should be a cease and desist. We get a cease and desist.
Yeah, we know, we heard about that, so.
And that wasn't, I had to research why they're giving us a cease and desist. And then I researched to show them why they gave it to us and it was null and void.
Right.
So it's just been one thing after another, seeming like all these hoops we're trying to jump
We've
through.
been dealing with it too,
And
believe me, we know.
it's crazy, and we're the ones paying
Well,
for it, and it's just,
I know,
we
but
have
we're
our
so-
poor people sitting in a hotel.
We're so close right now, so let's see if we can just push this over.
And our occupancy, we don't have a mortgage, they pay cash, they're
Okay.
buying it cash.
Go ahead, Kathy.
So, just to clarify, the city's regulations, site plan regulations, this is a condominium site plan that we're talking about, is very specific about what is acceptable as in, for the as-built. The as-built that you're discussing is for your condominium documents. That's an entirely different document than the as-built
We
that's
know that
required
now,
in our
but we didn't know that.
regulations. And that's what we've been trying to get from you. So as I said, if I would never encourage a temporary certificate of occupancy. If they want to get their certificate of occupancy, I've made a recommendation on, I think, the best approach to deal with it. But that, of course, it's entirely up to the board how you proceed with that.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the suggestion, coming up with a number to value what you're looking for, and we'll put that in escrow, is appropriate.
And that would come from the office,
Yeah.
obviously.
Right.
And I see the Director of Public Works back there. Do we need to have him come up for anything, or?
We
Well,
had
we're
to
still
come
waiting for
all
the
the way
condo
over
docs.
for
Okay.
nothing,
The
because
new
they've got
condo.
their sewer maintenance agreement.
How about the
pretty
other
much all worked
side?
out, just a couple minor
How
details.
about these people on the other side?
So,
Yeah, just not right now while we're talking about that, yeah.
What's that?
The two things, okay, sewer
I
agreement
just
between the
want to
two
know if
parties,
they agreed to.
that gets close and finalized, then it just needs to be matched against what is in the condo docs.
right.
So it's all synchronized and they all agree with each other. I have my comments on the condo docs finished. I sent it to Kathy last Friday just to make sure there wasn't anything else not associated with, I'll say, the sewer system that need to be looked at. And that was determined today, so I'll be hitting the button tomorrow to send the final changes. And really, it's not major wording, it's really just matching to what I think the final condo doc site plan is gonna say. Not the as-bills, but the actual site plan for the condo docs. And then, once those two matched up, everything's good from that standpoint. And then we're still waiting on the separate document, which is the as-bills.
Okay. Thank you, Wes. So you guys all set right now?
Yes, I think, just to recap, we're set with
Yeah,
our agreement. We're looking for that occupancy permit for the person who's in the motel. If we're able to get a number that equates to the cost of these final, revisions that will then be released once it's submitted, that's, I think, a viable resolution.
And can I just say one more thing?
Absolutely.
And a way that, and a way like kind of what we just said right now, it's changed again. Like Friday, he's doing new stuff, so now it's gonna come again that they have to change again, and we just changed them again. So it's like keep changing and putting in what they want, and then something else comes up. So it's just frustrating. It just doesn't make sense, and somebody's
Never
not talking
easy.
to somebody else, and it's just like kind of making it as we go. I don't know, and we're
For
kind
the
of paying for
record,
it.
who is that?
We're close. All right, thank you very much. Is there anybody else from the public?
Mrs. Manville of IEM.
Guys,
Good evening. Mark Ranoff, President of Sundown.
Oh.
Thank you all for
Dale?
bringing us back earlier than next month. I appreciate that. I think with us is our attorney, Garth Corvo from Craig Deachman Associates in Manchester. We've had great exchanges, and I think that's a very positive outcome. We're very close, a lot of work back and forth, so that's all good. I would just like a point of clarification perhaps from the staff with the status of the water flow management system, which is one of our concerns with the abutting property and flowing onto Sundown. Is the city satisfied that everything is per the design and is functioning per the design at this point in time? That's a question.
There's gonna be one final inspection by the third-party engineer,
Okay, so that is still pending then?
correct.
Okay, all right. Well, we'd hope that, that works out properly and everyone's satisfied and they can move on and everybody can be
If
happy
it
neighbors.
doesn't, I'm sure both parties will know quickly, but I
Okay.
expect it will, so
Right.
hopefully,
Right.
very hopeful.
All right, well, thank you very much. We do have copies of the agreement we can share with the board and the staff if you'd
I
like
think
that.
if you just give it to the staff and they can
The staff.
distribute it to us, that'll be fine, yep.
We can.
Just give it to Kalina right there,
Okay,
that'll be great.
I'll give her my copy.
Not yet, no. Thank you.
It may need one or two more tweaks, as we know, but, okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there anybody else that'd like to be heard from? I don't know if I ever opened the public comment. Did I even open it? I don't think I did.
It's okay. Well, you can open it again just in case. I think you did, though.
I did,
Oh, you
I
didn't
didn't, I
officially?
didn't, I didn't. Well, we'll pretend I did. Well, we'll say that we did at 7 o'clock, and now we're gonna close the public comment at 7:03. We're so, just lackadaisical here. All right, so any comments, any more comments from the staff? Kathy, any more comments on this? Okay, what about from the board members?
I think we can wrap this up.
Mike?
99% complete. What's stopping that 1% from getting it done?
It's almost there.
It probably just, it
Fine.
sound,
Just tweaking the language a
yeah,
little
and
bit.
get, like Wes has some stuff, and he's, like
Then
you
it has to
said,
get into the condo docs, the agreement,
Right.
correct?
Well, the language in the condominium documents has to line up with the language in the sewer maintenance agreement.
Very good.
you feel good about that?
Just get it done.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, well, I'll entertain them. We don't need a motion because they've withdrawn their,
Well, no, actually, you do need a motion to allow the issuance of the
CO.
certificate of occupancy
so I'll look for a motion.
with the security.
I'll look for a motion on that from somebody.
I'll make a motion to issue the certificate of occupancy with the conditions as set forth for the security, based on the planning department's recommendations.
Does he need to read that PL out with that?
Yes.
No,
Doesn't need to?
that application is the amendment.
Because that's the amendment, so that's different. So we're all set with just, okay. Look for a second for that motion.
I'll second that.
It's been seconded by Rob. Any more discussion?
I just have one question. This is for a CO for Unit 5, correct?
Correct, correct.
Do we need to state that in the motion that it's just for Unit 5?
Well, I imagine by the time they get to needing a CO for Unit 6, I would expect that all of these things will be resolved, but you could say just for, instead of tying it to Unit 5, you could tie it to the building, the third building.
Can I request a friendly amendment to your motion?
Go for it.
So that's your amendment?
Yep,
Very friendly.
very friendly.
Do we have to
was very-
vote on that amendment?
Building or to Unit 5?
We haven't
building.
voted on any of them.
In case they don't have everything
What's that?
done and
We
they
haven't
get
voted on any of them
a
yet.
purchase and sales.
Nobody's
agreement
adding an amendment to it.
6, they'll be able to get the CO.
Motion was made, so now we
Yeah,
have
so we
to,
need a second. I'll second that.
okay. Do we need to vote on that amendment?
Yes.
I thought so, okay. So we'll do,
Could we submit $10,000 right now to get, that should be moved?
My guess is that that's where it's gonna come in.
yeah,
That's
that,
my
you,
guess.
that's,
I
you
mean,
did,
just to-
yeah, you deal with the staff on that.
Time is of such time is of such
Yeah.
the essence that we'd be
You-
willing to.
Yeah, you can talk to the staff about that. I'm not a teller here, banker.
You don't take checks?
Okay, let's vote on the amendment first. So,
Question here?
Well, if they wanna leave the check.
no,
He raised his hand.
I mean, there's a motion, so.
but we have a motion on the floor. Let's just vote on that amendment, and then we can get back to his question. So all in favor of that amendment to the motion? Okay, none opposed, so that passes. All right, we'll break here. You have a question?
My name is Charles Miley. I live at Sundown Condominiums. I'm on the board of directors. Some clarification. Is the approval for the CO for the 6-unit conditional on the Du Bois and King review that's approved or not? That's my question.
I would imagine that they're fairly close to having that review. Excuse me. We won't release the security that they're providing tonight until that is resolved, so it will be in their interest, obviously, to get that done. And the board may want to entertain adding that to the motion, but
I don't
Wasn't
know
that
if-
part of
I don't-
the
is that
initial
needed?
approval?
Is that needed to be added? Because you've kind of said that everything has to be approved.
right.
So I don't know that we need to add that, do we?
I thought it was a condition of the initial application,
Right.
right? So it shouldn't be necessary, it's still part of the original application. CO for that building wouldn't be provided until those inspections were complete. We're making an exception here for Unit 5. But the condition still applies to Unit 6, that's the way I would take it. It was part of the original application that was approved by the board.
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good point, Scott.
Okay, so we're back to the original motion now that was presented by,
No, they've just unamended it.
what's your first name again?
You don't have a name tag.
Oh, I don't have a name tag. Tyler.
Tyler, thank you very much. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I will always
First it
remember
was the
now.
coffee, now you forget my name.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. Okay, so we have the motion on the floor by Tyler. Any other discussion? And this is with the amendment that was voted in. Okay, everybody in favor, raise your hand, please. Stacy, did you have your hand up? Okay, so no opposition? Okay, I thank you, both parties. I know it's been trying and very tedious, but I thank you all for getting to this point.
That's what they said.
Yeah, well, nothing's easy, it
It's all
seems.
part of the process.
So thank you again, everybody. And, okay, so now we've got,
We got a little internal business.
back to 6.1, rules and procedure discussion. Now, you've all gotten, I think you all got an email from the director. A couple of them here.
You have a copy of this?
So, I know Counselor Cheney, and I agree with him on this. one of the things we wanted to talk about was, which I guess is already on the rules, is that if the meeting's gonna go past a certain time, I think it's 10 o'clock now, I'd like to see it 9:30, that we have to vote. Okay, you wanna leave it at 10? Yeah. We have to, well, we'll have to decide on that. So we'll have to vote to continue the meeting past that time, or it gets moved to, like we did today.
Can we move it to 9?
Sorry?
Can we do 9?
Well, it's up to the board. Bruce,
We
7:30?
take the last one at
Maybe take the
9.
last one at 9 and then,
I'm pushing for
How about starting at
6:45.
6?
I think it says we wouldn't take on any new business
Then that would give 3
after.
hours. I think
after-
I
That means
have
we
no
wouldn't take any new business
after
up
9.
unless the board voted to
I don't
do
even get- I don't
that.
even get back to my house till 4:30.
So it's,
I mean,
you
that
know,
really doesn't
9:30 or 10 o'clock? Is that?
Something in that,
Something
something in
there.
that, well, somebody had said
Have
9,
two
we wouldn't
beers,
take
have
any new
supper,
business after
log
9
out,
o'clock.
Okay.
get in
We could
here.
go past,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
it,
Speak
and
up.
I,
Can-
yeah,
What did you just say?
9 o'clock is kind of early.
okay.
It really is.
Yeah, I have no, listen, I'm
That
just,
only gives you 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And what will end up happening if you do that is,
It'll snowball.
it's, right, it's
Yeah.
gonna start to.
so what do you
Pile up.
recommend, 9:30, 10 o'clock?
I would say nothing earlier than 9:30.
Okay. Well, so much for 7:45.
Rob has an early bedtime.
I go to bed, I'm in bed by 8, you know.
But we all know,
You're all set.
thank you very much, Wes, for coming in, thank you.
Gotta get my beauty sleep, lose my hair.
It ain't working.
Thank you. Your presence always produces results.
Yep.
Oh, we even had a,
We all know that a couple of meetings ago, when we went to, what was it, 11:15 or something, it's not only not fair to us, but it's not fair to the public too. And I'm not sure that we're all thinking quite as sharp as we should be at 11 o'clock or 11:15 after a long business day. So, go ahead, Rob, or Tyler. Go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, my only concern is when we start limiting the time, and we have like a long list of items to get through, we're gonna have people here that night for their items, and then we're gonna just push them to the next week. I mean, is there any way to circumvent that in advance? Maybe offer for them to.
Shorten the agenda.
Well, maybe offer, if it's a long agenda and people are at the bottom of it, giving them the opportunity to request that they go to the next meeting without even waiting that whole
The
time.
problem with that is,
bench times.
what's gonna end up happening is if the board, at 9:30, the board votes and says, you look at the agenda and there's still 2 or 3 more applications to go. And you say, no, we don't, that's gonna take us another hour, hour and a half. It's just gonna be too late. So we're gonna finish the application that we're talking about, and that other, we'll say 3 applications, just for a number. You're gonna have to continue them to the following week,
Month?
2 weeks.
not the following month.
No, it'd have to be
Can't-
within,
You
yeah.
can't push them out that
Oh,
far.
No,
You've
but-
got to hear them in
and-
the month.
Right.
And,
That's right.
and
That's right.
maybe, you know, maybe we can cut to the chase a little quicker with some of the public comment up here when they start rambling on, like even tonight, there was starting to drift a little bit, rehashing everything. So, and I understand that's my job or the vice
We're gonna
chair.
get you a gavel.
Yeah, I have a gavel, actually.
The minute they,
actually, could we not create a rule that limits, each speaker to like
3
3
minutes.
minutes?
Well,
minutes.
and I understand that. They do that at the city council, but sometimes there is some worthy discussion that has to be had.
Yes,
So-
but also sometimes people come in and they are repeating the same thing the last.
Well,
20
I understand it, and that would be my
Right,
job
the
to
chair
say,
can manage that.
that would be my job, or one of you guys to say, and I can think of somebody that would
Well,
do
no,
it, that we've already heard this, you can move on now. So, yes, Gail.
I was gonna say, we do something like that on the zoning board traditionally, or we did when I was on it, and if Mike remembers, it's been a year and a half. And usually that gets handled at the beginning of the meeting. Chair usually announced
Yeah.
that we have a number of applications tonight. We ask that you keep your comments short. we will not begin an application after 9:30. Sometimes you'll get people that will withdraw their applications because they may not be ready for one reason or another. And sometimes you know what I mean, that can also be done at the administrative level, when Kalina or whoever is taking the application says, you know, I want you to know that I've already got 6 or 12 applicants in front of you. It's your call, but the board's policy is, and then it's in our manual, and that they do not begin a new application after X time. We decided 9:30, 10:15, 9:15, 10 o'clock, but I think the zoning board did it at 9:30 or something like that.
yeah, no, that-
Well, it always worked, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We really didn't have a lot of trouble with that, and we pushed through some big agendas.
No, I don't expect we will.
I'm just saying I can foresee some frustration on the public's part if they wait that whole time and then they get pushed forward. So if we can address that at the beginning, or even at the administrative level when they're submitting their applications, just to avoid that frustration, I think would be.
But I think we can also show due diligence to move things along quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another approach that will address that concern is that and I've seen towns do this, I'm not sure that I'm real keen on it, but they will say, for instance, application number 1 will begin at 6:45, and that gives the board, 15 minutes to go through, the roll call, approval of minutes, that early business. And then application number 2 will begin at 7:15, so you're limiting them to a half an hour presentation.
The only thing I don't like about that, that's just me, I mean, others might have a
I gotta
different
tell
thing.
you, it's not something I'm keen on,
Yeah,
but I've
because
seen
then
planning
we're
boards do
watching, we're
that.
watching the clock and we're saying, geez, you 5 more minutes here. I don't know.
Well, and not only that, if you get to a situation where you could have an early application, Mr. Chair, that comes in and that everybody on the board or enough people on the board, and then all of a sudden you're twiddling your thumbs, because if you tell an applicant and you post a hearing for X, if you post it for 7:15,
Yeah.
and it's
Wait,
quarter
yeah,
of 7, then you've got 20
Yeah.
minutes of downtime,
Yeah.
and you cannot have that
Not a fan-
hearing
not a
legally
fan of that.
until that time.
Yes.
So you have that
Well, we won't be doing-
possibility
we
of
won't be-
wasting a lot of
Yeah.
time
That-
in the
that-
course of the
No,
night.
that's not gonna
Well,
happen.
I may, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
also make another suggestion to the chair, is you can almost anticipate, when we have standing room only, there's gonna be a lot of public comment about certain applications that may be controversial, et cetera. You can always ask that, if someone's already made a point, we don't need to hear the same point over, try to
yes, I watch
not
this,
repeat.
I watch the city council meetings
Yeah.
too, so yeah.
I would just
Don't repeat.
offer that the 3-minute rule the city council has is abused all the time,
But not
and allowed to be abused. But if they're repeating the same stuff over
Yeah.
and over again, then the
Yeah,
the
that's-
mayor will
we've heard
cut them
enough.
off short,
Yeah.
so. I mean, I think making a 3-minute rule just ought to focus people on what they want to say.
Right.
Doesn't mean we can't let them go longer, we can, or you can, but a 3-minute rule at least tells them we don't want to listen.
I take all my marching orders from you, Counselor, so, whatever you, he's got a button over there, he pushes it, I get a little jolt over here.
The Bay Street apartment building, 17 people spoke that
Yeah,
night.
yeah,
I wrote it right down,
Yeah.
how many for, how many against.
yeah.
There were 17 speakers.
I was back there listening, and I think several of those repeated too, but,
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're.
I have a question. When public comment, is it only citizens of Laconia can speak in a zoning board or a planning board?
It's supposed to be, and we,
There were people
We've
that
had people,
were
Out of
not
town,
from Laconia.
Guilford.
That's correct.
Yeah.
tonight?
no,
Tonight?
not tonight, but it's happening.
Not tonight.
No, in the past it's happened, but
That's
usually
what-
we,
You typically have them give their name and their
address.
address when they step to the podium.
yeah, I knew everybody tonight were all the players because they've been here several times, so, but no, and,
If you check your text messages, you'll see I mentioned the fact that
Yeah.
the young lady
She did.
didn't tell us her name or address.
I know.
You may know who she is,
The
but
lawyer.
The lawyer did an answer,
Didn't the,
But he said it very quietly.
Sometimes they only give the ward they're in, not their address.
But like the Isaiah 61 application, you might recall,
Oh,
we
I
had
don't-
people from outside of Laconia speaking. I don't know if that was a reasonable exception in that case, or if that's, we should just allow that across the board.
well, see, if it's a community, I mean, affects a lot more people.
Sure.
You know, I
Yeah,
don't think
I
it's such
get
a
it.
bad
Yeah, I
thing to,
get
just like for Bay Street. We had,
Yeah.
you had, the, people
Oh,
there
almost
from
like
Yeah.
Guilford and that.
Right, yeah, and I get it.
That made
Yeah,
sense,
it
that made
does.
sense. Okay, is there anybody, does anybody have wanna go with a time, 9:30, 10 o'clock, what are we talking?
Maybe we should just leave it at 10 o'clock.
What'd you say, Rob?
Maybe we should just leave it at 10 o'clock.
10
and have-
o'clock?
And then have that backup meeting for, you know, we've never even enforced having, not starting a new application after 10 or taking the vote. Maybe
I
we should
only
just-
remember once when the chair requested a motion to go beyond 10 o'clock, but we've had plenty of meetings that went beyond 10 o'clock
So maybe we
without a
should
motion.
actually follow the rule.
We're
and
aware
see
of
how
that. So-
goes, and then,
All right, so we wanna set it for
Then
10
come back
o'clock?
and-
Yes,
So, we don't need to vote on this, this is just gonna be our rule from this on.
no, 10 o'clock.
It's in there, yeah. The only changes, I haven't gone through it in as much detail yet as I want to. But one of the things that I am concerned about is that the references to the city code that are contained in the rules of procedure are incorrect. So there have probably been some changes to the city code.
So you're
and-
gonna,
and this hasn't.
so you're
kept
gonna
up.
make those changes and bring them to us at the next meeting? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, those changes are already made.
Those are in this,
You do have
this
to have a
other.
public hearing on any changes that you make to the rules.
All right, so do we wanna schedule that for the next meeting?
We could.
oh. Could I ask
Yeah.
another thing? I don't know. On our agendas, we usually have presentations up as number 6. Could we make that, could we move them to after all of the public hearings?
What page are you on?
No, I'm not, I'm just saying on the agenda.
Oh, on the agenda? Oh, that doesn't have to be,
But, I mean, just as a standard practice, so then
so what did you want? Oh, presentations? You wanna
presentations just
Move
move
those
that
to the end,
move to the end.
after all the applications
Yeah.
have been heard.
Because I just feel like, you know, these people,
That's fine.
90% of them don't care what we're listening to.
Right, and that, we've already moved it twice, so that's, should be no issue.
Okay.
We can do that.
So assuming,
So do we wanna have a public hearing then for these changes? Is that what you're?
Yeah, I think you should, just to get the rules of procedure consistent with
Should we schedule that for the
city
next meeting?
code. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Kathy, do you want to, are you planning on doing a rewrite of the site plan and subdivision regulations?
I thought that I would get all the way through the rules of procedure, and then, yes, I am gonna start tackling those as well.
Okay, because I was kind of thinking it might be nice to have, and I've seen other municipalities do it, where they're combined and you have one
Yeah,
regulation, because it's a little bit easier to navigate some things.
Yeah, there are two schools of thought on that. And it's something that we can certainly have a discussion about and see what direction the board wants to go in. It makes it, one of the things that you've got to be really careful to make sure that you're consistent throughout in your definitions. So typically, you only have the one document, so you're gonna have one set of definitions for the entire document. It's also nice to have, Laconia site plan regulations refer back to the road standards and the subdivision regulations. But typically, you would have road standards and requirements in both documents, which leaves a lot of room for conflicts where it hasn't been edited carefully, and so you have one standard in site plan, one standard in subdivision, and then that becomes an issue when you have a condominium. So which one are you gonna use if you've got a condominium? Because condominiums are subject to both site plan and subdivision. So for the sake of consistency, having, instead of site plan regulations and subdivision regulations, having land use development regulations as a single document, you minimize the risk of conflicts between the two documents.
Okay.
So, I mean, if that's something that the board would like me to
It
look
sound-
into and
yeah.
start to put together. What I could do is look at a couple of other communities that are doing it and give you a copy of their regulations to look at and see how it flows and see if that's something that you would like to work with as well.
Okay, sounds good. The only other thing, I think, that I just wanted to mention it tonight, we've been talking about this height restriction on, especially on Lakeside Avenue, for some time now, a couple of years. And as we know, once an application is put in, they escape any changes that we're looking at doing. And so I'd like, at the next meeting in October, to have a discussion about this from the board, because if we can come up with some sort of an agreement, a motion or whatever, to pass on to the city council, to have them perhaps do something. I'm talking about Lakeside Avenue. I'm not talking about the whole CR up there. I'm talking about Lakeside Avenue so that we don't have a wind tunnel effect up there with, you know, a canyon, basically, going along everywhere but the veterans' homes. At some point, that property up there, like the arcades are and stuff, someday that's gonna sell. We've already saw what happened on the corner there, where Judy Krahulik's house was. They're trying to get the other property, and they're gonna be wanting to put up 60-foot buildings there, more than likely. So I think it's something, the citizens up there have been reaching out to me. We could fill up this room with people who are very concerned about this. So it's something I think we should discuss at our next meeting and try to come to some resolution on that.
I
Go ahead,
agree.
Rob.
There's already been talk, as many of you know, one of the property owners there is looking into perhaps getting a casino license, and for him to do that, he would probably have to expand up, I would think. And
It's
so
possible.
there's,
It's
we
possible.
should be maybe preemptive.
Well, we definitely need to, go
I
ahead,
don't know if
Rob.
that's the right word.
The problem you have is he's already made his intentions known.
Right, so
You
you
suddenly
have to be
change the
careful,
rules,
yes.
He's gonna sue us and say.
Yeah,
Well,
you have to
but
be
he hasn't
careful,
put an
yeah.
application to raise the building. He's just trying to get a casino license.
Well, he
But he could.
conceptually came and asked about, he needs permission from the council to allow casinos.
Casino gambling, but he hasn't put in an application yet.
No.
And until he puts an application in,
I understand what you're saying, Charlie, I'm just trying to tell you, he's gonna say, I've already done the start of it, and now suddenly Charlie, who everybody in town knows.
Sure.
Doesn't want 60-foot buildings.
Yeah.
Charlie's trying to stop me from putting it in.
that's all right, I know him well.
Does the code already allow 60-foot buildings in
It
the
does for
CO?
non-residential.
Okay.
So, and I do want to come to that point, though, is we have a significant number of buildings down there that are already at 60 feet. And most of those veterans' home buildings are fairly tall.
They're not-
And then you
they're-
have the marketplace just down the
They're
road,
not
which
6
is,
stories tall. They're up high because they're on a hill.
Well,
but from the ground level, at grade, all the way to the roof is probably about 60 feet.
I'm talking
And then
about,
you have the grade in the back, that's probably, 35 feet.
no,
So-
I couldn't disagree more. I'm talking about a building being put up, whether it's on the hill or down below, that's 60 feet tall. And that we already have the old Lakeside Hotel, that's very tall. But, we're not talking about buildings that are already there, we're talking about new buildings. Again, this is a discussion for next month.
I
So-
think it needs to be the whole zone, though, not just one street.
Well, Well,
Because then we got spot zoning.
yeah,
It's
well,
about
it's
zoning,
okay, it's something to talk about, everybody, okay? So, we don't need to hammer this out tonight, we can come back next month and we can have these discussions about spot zoning or any of that stuff, and we can do more research on that, yes, Kalina?
So what do you want worded on the agenda?
Just a discussion about height restrictions at Weirs Beach,
It's a Monday.
Height restrictions, period.
yeah. Lakeside Avenue,
I'll be on
whatever,
vacation
okay.
too, so I
Yep.
can't.
You might as well add residential
Well, residential's
going
35
to
feet.
36 feet without enough footprint. Would you suggest I contact
Just leaving it at height.
Yeah.
distribution?
Yeah, this is something we can discuss at the next meeting. That's all I wanted to bring it up, so we know it's gonna be discussed about. And we can all do whatever research we want, we can talk to people, reach out to people, we all have that ability to do that, and see where it goes.
Yeah, Charlie, can I ask, Kathy, what does the agenda look like for October so far?
It's not a big one.
It's not,
We've
okay.
got a couple of extensions.
Oh, question on the extensions.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rob.
What was the outcome of extensions?
They're now public hearings, so I'm gonna take them right off the agenda for extensions, and they'll be under public hearings.
That's what legal came back with?
6 o'clock.
6, okay.
And there's no way to limit that conversation so that we're not relitigating every extension?
Gail, we're gonna be limiting it to whatever the extension covers, not,
So is
we're not
that
gonna
now
go with a whole
$200
project
application
again.
fee for somebody coming in to do an extension?
No, that hasn't changed.
So it's still just the,
The fee plus the butters.
okay.
Okay, anything else for tonight? Well, I think we did a good job 2 weeks ago, getting our point across, so I think tonight showed that on both applicants. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Here we are. Thank you all. At
7:33.
7:33. Almost a record.
Okay. Okay.
Counselor Cheney,
The next meeting.
you're not rushing home, are you?
What's that?
You're not rushing home, are you?
No, so